Stab your son, hold your baby hostage, and get slapped by Galadriel. The finale of Squid Game is here, where I butcher more Korean words than a white girl singing BTS. There is a lot to talk about, from Gi-hun's sacrifice, where all that money went, and the introduction of Cate Blanchett's character, which hints at a totally new spin-off developed by David Fincher. Of course, how can I forget the biggest question on everyone's mind?
Did y'all notice that there was no fat people in the whole thing?
Be warned, this isn't a recap, but a deep dive into the show's biggest questions and theories. But before we begin, I give you the green light to like and subscribe. I'm only 45 billion won from being able to move out of my parents' basement. If you're like me, I did not have Cate Blanchett on my Squid Game bingo. Appearing in the credits as simply special appearance, her character is reminiscent of the Squid Game recruiters back in Korea. Now, there are some really interesting details here. Everything from her suit, her briefcase, and game of dakji all point at her being part of the broader international Squid Games. If you remember back in Season 1, the VIPs talk about Korea having the best of the games, implying there are different tournaments throughout the world.
The games this edition have been amazing.
Right, the contest in Korea was the best.
This brings us back to Cate, who can be seen here recruiting a down-and-out homeless man, keeping in line with the game's mission of recruiting men and women who are down on their luck. Now, the creator of the show, Hwang Dong-hak, has said this is the end of this particular story, but rumors have spread that an American spin-off is in the works, helmed by David Fincher. This wouldn't be a remake, but an entirely new story set in the Squid Game universe, and having Cate as the actress suggests she'll be in Fincher's show, since the two have previously worked together in The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. I also want to talk about this long, knowing glance she gives Hwang In-ho. It's as if the two know each other. It may even suggest In-ho has been promoted to a more global position, in charge of running multiple games throughout the world. We know he's still with the company even after the self-destruction of the facility back in Korea. He gives Gi-hun's child her father's money, which he took back from the Pink Motel where he used to live. He rides in a Squid Game car, and the gift he gives Gi-hun's daughter is in the fashionable Squid Game black and pink. It's kind of ironic that his belongings, which include his bloody jumpsuit, are in the same color box than that of the coffins. Gi-hun would never have been put in one of those coffins, considering his body was most likely incinerated when the island self-destructed. Gi-hun's journey this season sees him in a final showdown with Lee Myung-gi, or Player 333. He once ran a YouTube channel called MG Coin, which I'm sure CoffeeZilla has thoroughly reported on. The final game puts Gi-hun in a precarious situation. Essentially, one of the three remaining contestants, himself, Myung-gi, and a baby, yes, that's correct, I said a baby, has to die in order for the games to come to an end. If they wanted to, Gi-hun and Myung-gi could throw the baby off the ledge and split the winnings together. But other than that making them absolute garbage human beings, there's a deeper connection these two have with this child. Gi-hun promised the baby's mother, Jun-hee, to keep the baby safe before her untimely death during the jump rope game. He also has this paternal connection with the child, remembering fondly how the baby reminds him of his own daughter.
그 아이가 태어나고 자라는 걸 지켜본 시간이 내 인생에서 가장 행복했던 시간이었어.
Myung-gi, on the other hand, is the baby's actual father. Now, you'd think he'd do everything in his power to save his own child, but he'll end up threatening to toss the baby over the edge himself. According to the show's creator, Myung-gi's character is a representation of society's ills and how people have come to prioritize self-interest and financial gain, even at the expense of their own child. Gi-hun is the complete opposite, representing how humans can be selfless and even give up their own lives for something greater. His last line even states, "We are not horses, we are humans, and humans are," before he falls backwards, never revealing what his last lines were to be. The horse metaphor is a nod to how the VIPs treat our competitors like horses at a racetrack to be bet on. In fact, it was horse racing that Gi-hun got himself wrapped up in that led to his death in Season 1. The ambiguity of this final line suggests it's up to the viewer to decide what humans actually are. In fact, the final episode is titled, "Humans are... Humans have the capacity to be greedy and self-interested disinterested like Myung-gi or generous and selfless like Gi-eun. And in a shocking turn of events, Gi-eun finds himself and the baby as the final two contestants. This happens after he's attacked by Myung-gi, however the button to begin the game was never pressed. This creates a dilemma. According to the rules, only after the button is pressed does a death count, allowing the surviving competitors the ability to move on. And since Myung-gi died before this button was pressed, it leaves Gi-eun and the baby as the final two, with one of them having to be killed. This is where Gi-eun makes the decision to sacrifice himself to save the child. If we go back to Season 1, Gi-eun started off as a man who believed money could solve all his problems. Not only has he transcended this way of thinking, but he's willing to give up something even more important, his life, in the pursuit of something greater. The decision is in direct contrast to the actions of Hwang In-ho, or the frontman. I actually think he's the most compelling character left in the series. This is a guy who previously won the 2015 Squid Game tournament, then came back to work at the very games which saw him brutally murder countless people. Why would someone want to take part in the games which turned him into the worst of humanity? This is a question echoed by his brother Hwang Jun-ho in his line to him stating, There are several answers for this motivation. One, In-ho lost everything during those 2015 games. His wife died while competing, and he himself lost his humanity when it's revealed he murdered several of the remaining competitors to solidify himself as the winner. And what better person to work for the games than someone who's lost his humanity? The games also offered him a new sense of purpose in a world he couldn't really go back to. The games also gave In-ho the ability to justify his actions by testing others who are put in similar situations. This is what I like to call a challenge of ideals, and another reason why he joins the games, mainly to test Gi-eun in particular. Gi-eun believes in humanity's goodness, while In-ho wants to destroy this belief in what I would argue is a twisted way to justify his own past actions. I'm talking about the night In-ho was tasked by Il-nam, the game's founder, to kill his fellow competitors to win the game. In-ho gives Gi-eun the same opportunity in the 2024 games, but unlike In-ho, he does not go through with it. Think about how earth-shattering this is to In-ho. I believe he went into these games wanting to change Gi-eun, but ended up changing himself. We'll see him then go through these extra hoops at the end of the season to ensure his brother, the baby, and Gi-eun's daughter are compensated, when technically he could have done nothing. With him still being a part of the games, it makes me wonder if he feels trapped, like being a part of them are his punishment for the sins of the past. In-ho's brother, former detective Hwang Jun-ho, is left with the baby and her prize money of 45.6 billion won, or roughly 33.5 million US dollars. It's implied that Jun-ho will raise the baby using this money so the both of them can live comfortably. His story seems over, however it's up in the air whether he'll continue to pursue his brother in his search for answers. We also have the fate of former amusement park worker turned Squid Game guard Kang No-ul. And I know I pronounced that like Razogul, I'm sorry. Her journey in Season 3 sees her saving a man by the name of Park Young-suk, the father of a young girl she befriended while working at the park. No-ul's backstory is, simply put, tragic. Growing up in North Korea, she became a soldier who killed her superior officer and escaped to the south, having to leave behind her newborn baby. She then spends all her time saving enough money to find and reunite with her daughter. While going through her files, she finds a photo of her husband and daughter with a caption reading, "Husband executed, daughter dead." This is what leads her to consider suicide, something she gives up on after witnessing Gi-eun's sacrifice. 6 months after the games, No-ul receives a call from Park Man-chol, the broker who helps North Korean defectors into the south. Turns out her daughter might not be dead after all. When he gets a lead, she might be in Yanjing, China. The last we see of No-ul, she's on her way with a renewed sense of hope that her daughter is alive. There's also a nice tag when the brother of Kang Se-byok, who you'll remember as one of the final contestants in Season 1, is reunited with his mother. She, like No-ul, was also a North Korean who defected. However, her mother was caught, forcing her to raise her younger brother in the south. The reason she joined the game was to raise money to hire this broker to find her mother. But with her dead, Gi-eun took on this responsibility and now we see the fruits of his labor paying off. Even tertiary characters like Choi Woo-suk and Kim Moo-dong get a wrap-up as they embark on sprucing up the Pink Motel, becoming its owner and head manager respectively. So while Squid Game may have come to an end, this seems to be just the beginning in a slew of new spin-offs that might take us all around the world. And if Fincher is indeed at the helm, we are definitely in very good hands. But now I turn it over to you. What did you think of Season 3? I want to hear your thoughts and theories in the comments below. Thanks for watching, be sure to like and subscribe, and for more bad takes, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at BigStoryYT. Until next time, remember, Daddy loves you very much.
This is the story.